How's it going? Can you hear me? Yeah. Hi, I'm Jon Key. It's such an honor to be here today. I feel so blessed and amazed and excited to be talking with you about my work. So we're gonna dive right in. This is me. I'm an art director, graphic designer, and writer. I'm originally from Alabama, went to school and graduated from the Rhode Island School of Design, and now RISD? Yes. Also, I love it when the audience communicates with me, so don't stop. And now I live in Bushwick. Woo! This is also me. I'm also a photographer and a painter, and these photographs are a part of a series called Tension and Fragmentation. Each color represents the intersection of my southernness, green, blackness, black, family, red, and queerness, violet. My own personal work and exploration has helped me navigate the communities I enjoy designing for. So a lot of my work focuses on heritage, culture, and identity. And doing that, a lot of the work I end up designing for are arts and cultural institutions, educational programming, and marginalized communities, especially QTPOC, or queer and trans people of color. This is also me. My Man in the Violet Suit series, these are acrylic on paper, 3 different forms to illustrate the same idea of the self-portrait. Image making, design, typography has infinite context, compositions, colors, and approaches that can be used to articulate a narrative and allows for nuances of culture and heritage to emerge. Work, where I as a designer make voices visible, amplify, and bring these messages to the larger attention of the world. So we obviously know what the word amplify means, but just in case, here's a definition. But what about in a design context? I think as designers, we have the skills to solve a lot of problems the best. We have the skills to bring attention to anything because we are image makers, we're communication crafters, and obviously we're masters of typography. And so this is what drives me as a designer. My main goal is to use my skills to carve out spaces where authentic voices are free to be celebrated and expressed, where honest conversations and expressions can emerge. So today, I'm gonna show you a few projects to kind of tackle this idea of designing to amplify. The first project being Black Girl Magic. Oh yeah, okay. There's a chord here. Black Girl Magic is an illustrated children's book of poetry written by Mahogany Browne. So this is kind of a brief quote from it. The typography and the design were incredibly inspired by the poet's words. So here are a few lines. You're a black girl worth remembering. You are a threat knowing yourself. You're a threat loving yourself. So Black Girl Magic is this beautiful story about black womanhood, self-love, and strength. And I feel like as a designer, it's always a privilege to take someone else's words and completely redefine it and completely bring it to life in a new way. And so with the illustrator, Jess X Chin, this is the illustration style. So we chose inky silhouettes and a limited color palette, so black, white, red, and a gold color as the restraints for the form. We wanted the illustrations and the typography to feel as if they were made by one person and as if they were inseparable visual forms. So the typeface. The typeface is a hand-drawn typeface that was scanned into a digital typeface. Keeping the energy and authenticity of the illustration style in the poet's voice, the typeface was designed to work with and bring to life the words and complement the images perfectly. It was important to capture the personal quality of the typeface and make sure it had the nuance of the hand in it. So these are the numbers. Typeface. So yeah, as we were making this typeface, it was really important for us to have the nuances and the different variations of the letter form. So as we were typesetting it, it still felt like, it still had the spontaneity of the hand. It still kept the personal quality of the voice. So in thinking about the actual publication of how all of these things came together, one of the things that you often see in children's book is that there might be a really beautiful illustration on the left side of the page, and the typography is kind of crammed into the corner, and that's what you're supposed to read. And one of the things we wanted to do is make sure the composition and the illustration were considered together from the start of the book, and that the type and the image would have a connection and a relationship. So you can start to see the different color palettes and how all of these things come to life. And read the text. The poem is really beautiful by Mahogany Browne. And we really loved, for example, the baseline of the typography as we were setting it. We didn't want it to have one. We wanted to make sure it still kept the energy and the motion and the excitement that the poet's voice has, and then obviously the illustration style. For the illustrations, we use the motif of black hair throughout the book, and allowing that to kind of be a symbol of heritage, power, and again, black womanhood. And then using the type to be intertwined and have the same characteristics and movement as the hair. We're inspired by Matisse painting for this spread, The Dance. I know people are familiar with that, of course, like people are dancing in a circle, they're wearing blue, it's really beautiful. And it captures this joy and this energy that we're trying to bring to life in this publication. And then the book uses the names of prominent black women, changing the landscape for little girls coming after them. As you can see, so Beyonce, Shonda Rhimes, names that we know. Or empowering phrases validating your own girl's experiences. And it was really important that we had an all-type page for me, because everyone loves typography. But never forgetting that the mother and the strong bond that they share between the mother and the daughter. So the next project that I'm going to talk to you about is the 10th magazine. So more about me. I love books and I love editorial design. And I remember the very first time that I received the 10th magazine in the mail. I think I was tearing up a little bit because I was just so amazed at how beautiful it was. And for the first time, not only did I see a black person in a magazine looking beautiful and being celebrated, but also a black queer persons and their narratives and sharing that. And that was really important for me. So I think I was flipping through it super slowly. My hand was trembling. I was crying. And I think I got halfway through the book, set it down. I was like, I have to email the founder of the magazine, carve, because I wanted to work for them. I wanted to work on it because it was so beautiful. And it worked, which never happens. So he was like, yeah, of course, you could totally work on it. We love your work. Come meet us, and da-da-da-da-da. And so I've been working on the magazine now for the last 3 issues. And so you can see the kind of range that we've done so far. And for example, the America issue, the second one from the right, was about documenting a road trip across the United States and exploring and uncovering the different communities of black queerness. I think oftentimes there is an idea that blackness or black queerness or queer people, it kind of operates in a monolith, and we're really trying to go through and investigate the different nuances of these cultures. So from New York to Tennessee to New Orleans to LA, the issue defines the multiplicity and diversity within a frequently monolithic thought of community. And you can see different expressions of typography pushing the form in these narratives. The latest issue was about technology and the intersection of queer black people and the tech industry. Interviews span community members, web developers, gamers, software engineers, artists, etc. And we're really inspired by old and contemporary digital interfaces and icons, merging both the print world and this digital world, so we knew what we were talking about. We spent a lot of time interviewing and working in San Francisco, Silicon Valley, and Oakland. Stories express the success of these places, of these people, the trials, and the culture of the tech industry from the perspective of one of the most marginalized people in the field. And we use a digital pixelated typeface throughout, again, merging this idea of print and digital interfaces. And this story is really great, and we kind of were investigating and talking to black, lesbian, women developers, and who often, many of them were couples, and their relationships to developing design and working in Silicon Valley, and how that process and how that has been for them. Malcolm Gamer X, for example, which I think is a really cute title for a name, obviously speaks to the civil rights movements that are happening within the gaming industry. And this was something that I had no idea that even existed. People are discriminated against when you have a role player game. Do people do games? I don't do games. But people were discriminated against, not only because they were black in these role player games, but also because they were queer. And that was a crazy story that I had no relationship to. And it was amazing seeing these stories and these narratives come to life and hear them talk about them. Also, we worked with a ton of illustrators, creating these really beautiful queer illustrations, and we spent a lot of time, obviously, talking to these social tech giants like LinkedIn, like Uber, like Facebook, and creating our own infographics around these institutions. We interview artists like Tim Rosenborough, whose work intersects queer identity, technology, design, and his body. And we also did some really fun articles just dissecting, for example, how do we take selfies, and kind of explaining that process out in kind of its fun, cheeky voice. So we use photography a lot to punctuate some of the stories or to tell the narratives on their own. And featuring QPOC designers like Hood by Air and amazing photographers like Marcus Branch and Harvey Jackson and others, we really were able to create some amazing collaborations and bring these stories to life. You can see the icons that we created as well. So Slate TV. Slate TV is another project approaching publications for queer voices. Slate TV, we executed the strategy and the identity design. So let's see if this sound works.
Chap chap in the bando, I don't wanna look like you. Chap chap in the bando, I don't wanna look like you. Chap chap in the bando, I don't wanna look like you. Chap 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 look like you. No, I don't wanna look like you. Look like you. Chap chap in the bando, I don't wanna look like you. Chap chap in the bando, I don't wanna look like you.
So Slate TV was founded by Sean and Terry Torrington. Yes. It is a queer digital content platform focusing on elevating video narratives of the LGBTQI community. The logo type was created to illustrate the voice of the community literally saying the word slay, and also to portray the many voices, personality, and diverse landscapes of queer people of color. And we paired the logo type with platform bow by commercial type. Whoop, whoop. Fun and unexpected proportions complements the character and the geometric quality of our logo type perfectly. And so in thinking about Slate TV and it creating a space for queer voices to be as authentic, as flamboyant, as extra, and as queer as possible, and the shows really do highlight the kind of diversity within our community. And we wanted the logo type to bring to life people, like I said, people like actually saying the word slay, but the energy, the joy, the shade even, that the word exudes. And there's so many different contexts and situations and forms in which the logo type can come to life. And speaking more specifically about the logo type, we wanted to make sure that the letters and the letter forms also spoke to this diversity and this multiplicity. So in thinking at the letter forms and thinking how the S is super condensed, and the Y is super funky, and the A is a little bit more standard, and like allowing all of these different voices and typographic features to come together and to create one phrase. So as the brand grows, there's a need to create new typographic forms. Oh, gotta go back. New typographic forms for shows and new solutions for their documentaries. Party Boy, for example, follows the Black and Latino queer people at the intersection of meth and the party club culture. And it's so interesting just seeing as Slate TV is growing and as they're doing more work, doing more documentaries, and doing more shows, how they're also bringing in other young filmmakers and other young artists to have a platform to show their work. So, Codify Art. Community building and engagement is extremely important to advocating and seeing change in our community. I'm one of the co-founders of Codify Art, which is a Brooklyn-based artist collective of queer and trans people of color artists and designers. So here's the logo. Codify believes that the existing vocabulary of the arts is inadequate for engagement with the stories of marginalized people. In response, we create and claim space to collectively build an alternative inclusionary language, or to codify. Yes. So this is the team, this is us, and some of them are in the audience. My twin, Jared Key, Sharina Gordon in the front on the left, Kat J.K. Lee in the back, and then me on the far left. And the design emphasized that working together makes a stronger, clearer image. And that's one of the things that we want to do as Codify. So reading this, these two individual postcards that when come together reads, Codify Art, creates theater, performs painting, makes music, and loves dance. And it really does get at the kind of all the breadth of things that we do as an artist collective. From gallery shows to open mic nights to networking events, we do a ton. And so I'm gonna show a few examples of things that we've done. This is a still from the Spring Break Art Fair, which was an art festival that happened in Times Square. And also is where I sold my first 2 paintings, which was kind of cool. This is also us. We just finished up a session at the Whitney Museum where we talked about Jacob Lawrence and Elizabeth Catler's work in their permanent collection, Where We Are, their new show. We led a writing exercise and discussion, dissecting, talking about how their work relates to contemporary times now and how we can learn from their work. But the project that I mainly want to talk about is the Survival Library. So, the Survival Library is an online archive of queer and trans people of color voices. It was a collaboration and partnership with Pioneer Works School of Apocalypse, where they have semester-long classes where groups and organizations and individuals can come in and lead these classes about basically anything. And so through the Survival Library, we use various different mediums to archive the voices of QTPOC artists and writers as a testament and validation of our hopes, our fears, our desires, and means of self-care and self-preservation. And I think typography and visual cues are the most basic means in which we can interact and communicate with each other. And these projects prove that the range of narratives that exist and the reality that learning and empathy can come from listening. Also, this was the first time that many people use typography or design to forge these narratives. So it's great taking non-designers or people that don't really have a relationship to visual forms and kind of guiding them through this process. So the first project that I want to talk about is my twin, Jon Key. And he paints with his hair. So this is an example. Which is like such a weird thing, right? I think people are like, what is this? Like, I've never seen anything like this before. But our grandmother used to have a saying that your hair is your strength, based off of the story in the Bible. And so she was like, never cut your hair. There's so much power and heritage and strength that comes from that. And also, our grandmother couldn't read. So Jared took these visual forms of performance and painting and merged them together to create his own codified language, explaining the actions in our grandmother's words. And so you can see how he transcribes these gestures and put it into this book format to kind of create this narrative. This was also their first zine. This was their first book, so this is kind of crazy. And like, again, using design cues and using design education to help inspire and allow these artists and writers to express themselves. The next project is by Tanya Eugen, $Feeling, is an interactive digital experience working through her own personal experiences with depression. Themes include navigating work and social expectations as an upper middle class queer woman of color, mental health in and through prison, and the importance of community building and the importance of friends and relationships for survival. The next project that I'm going to talk about is Searching for a Home That Holds All of Me by Sharina Gordon. And I really love this book. She merges handwriting, or what she called illustrative text, and poetic typesetting to illustrate this complex experiences of dealing with depression and anxiety as a queer Black woman. And this was also her first zine, her first thing of designing, and looking at her asking me questions about typesetting and asking me questions how you can bring this to life, and like even printing this book. And it was kind of amazing. I think it's such a successful object that she created. And the last project that I'm going to share from this section is a project that I did called We. And We uses found historical photography from the civil rights movements and my own photography and work into new collage forms. This is a narrative about the past and the presence of the civil rights movement and how the images still remain the same, yet offers some hope and resilience. And so it's nice when I was pulling these images and creating my own images as a response that they were so typographic. And when I was pulling these images from the database, you can see like the poster signs that were there and the different words that were used. But also we still wanted to create my own language and my own voice as well. So I ended with We Are Bulletproof. Giving non-designers the tools to express themselves through design, I think, is extremely inspiring. And I was wondering if the same principle could be applied to kids. So we're invited to give a workshop at the Children's Museum of Art where we asked 3 to 6-year-olds to create a typeface, if that was even possible. And so I don't know if you know about the museum, but it's a great space and there's so many interactive ways for the kids to run around and explore their creativity. So we obviously, as designers, thought this would be a great place to kind of do our typeface experiment. So we chose 2 artists as inspirational forms for the student to respond to, the first being Matisse. He's a French artist that we know, known primarily for his color and fluid use of form. He was a printmaker, he was also a sculptor, but primarily known as a painter. And you can already see kind of the typographic forms that are starting to emerge, and that's inspiration for the kids. The second artist was Franz Kline that we gave. And I think the same thing can be said for that. Franz Kline was obviously an American painter, born in Pennsylvania, who was associated with the abstract expressionist movement from the 1940s and 1950s. And you can definitely see again like how typography and type design kind of appears throughout this. That looks like an H. So this was the prompt. We asked the students, 3 to 6 years old, to pick one letter, one number, or a punctuation sign from this page, to pick one of the artists, Matisse or Klein, and then to paint the letter or cut it out. Most kids obviously end up choosing the first letter of their name, or they got really excited and they just kind of stayed there and did all the letters. So yeah, this is an example of the room, and you can start to see like our inspirational boards and like the typographic forms that started to emerge. And look at this picture, look at this little girl. She's like cutting out this letter. She's so into it because everyone loves typography. And, and I think it was really important for us that this was to become a real typeface. So as the students were making the typeface and painting it or cutting it out, then we'll immediately scan it into the computer there and then actually make a typeface in which the students can start typing in their names and seeing it in real time. So it kind of worked. So this was the working fuss that we made. So this is the Matisse one. And I think that language is so important in defining what a visual system can look like. And so as we were working, as they created these typefaces, we asked them, what do you think about Matisse's work? What is your response to it? And this was one of the quotes. The Matisse cutouts look like seaweeds. Perfect. It does. And I think that that is so clear, you know, and like as designers and as artists and makers, we respond to visual things, we digest them, and then we create. So come make art. And then the Klein typeface, again, you can see the energy that they have and how it was completely inspired by his fast-moving paintings. Mr. Klein does a lot of very fast paintings. Yes, he does. Yeah, it's really amazing to see the product of this workshop, because I think it's an extremely convincing typeface, and it's forms that I don't think I could have ever made. Like, look at this A. This A is amazing, and I don't think that I could have made that. And again, using design and giving that as a tool to students or people who aren't designers, I think makes really surprising and inspiring results. So at the end, we gave the typeface to the museum to distribute to parents to use for the kids and also for them to use as future collateral. And yeah, this is it. So I really love the work that I do, and I think it's great, again, to use design with non-designers as tools of expression and as designers to make space for more people to have these types of conversations. Thank you.